Don't touch that. The voice was like chimes caught in a magnetic field, resonant and sharp. Kale flinched, his hand hovering over the pool's console light. He wasn't even sure what he was touching. Everything in this containment cell, med bay, shimmered with an internal luminescence, surfaces flowing like liquid mercury under glass. And she was the most distracting part. She sat perched on a high metal stool across the room, legs crossed, one slender, three-fingered hand tracing patterns on her own thigh. Her skin wasn't skin, not really. It was more like tightly woven obsidian scales that shifted with iridescent blues and greens as she moved. Bioluminescent lines, like circuitry, pulsed faintly beneath the surface, currently a cool, watchful turquoise. A tail, long and segmented like an insect's but tipped with a soft-looking, feathery plume, swayed rhythmically behind her. "Why not?" Kale tried for nonchalant, rubbing his aching head. The crash had knocked him out cold. Waking up here, wherever here was, with her staring at him like he was a particularly interesting fungus sample, wasn't helping the disorientation. Might call for help, might blow us all up. Adds a little spice, don't you think? Head tilted, a surprisingly human gesture on a distinctly non-human face. Her eyes were large, lidless, and the color of molten gold, pupils vertical slits that dilated slightly. Help is unlikely, blowing us up is inefficient. The turquoise lines on her skin brightened, flickered with streaks of amber. Amusement, annoyance. "You bleed red, predictable," Kale scowled. "Sorry to disappoint. What color do you bleed?" She uncrossed her legs, the movement fluid and unnervingly silent. She slid off the stool and padded towards him. Her bare feet made no sound on the metallic floor. She was taller than him by a head, lean and corded with muscle beneath the shifting scales. The proximity sent a jolt through him, a weird static cling that had nothing to do with the ambient tech. "My kind does not bleed, not like you." She stopped just inches away, close enough that he could feel a faint warmth radiating from her, smell a strange scent like ozone and exotic spice. "We resonate. We fracture, we leak light." Her hand, the one that had been tracing patterns, lifted towards his face. He jerked back instinctively. "Whoa, personal space, lady, ever heard of it?" The amber flares intensified, swirling with the turquoise. "Personal space," she pronounced the words carefully, tasting them. "An inefficient concept. You are damaged. I repaired you. You are mine for now." "Yours?" Kale choked out a laugh. "I don't think so. I'm nobody's mine. I was flying my own ship, minding my own business." "Your ship is distributed," she said, a hint of something sharp, almost cruel in her chiming voice. "Across several kilometers of swamp nebula debris, very inefficient." She reached out again, faster this time. Her cool, smooth fingers brushed against the cut on his temple he hadn't realized was still weeping. A jolt, stronger this time, went through him, like licking a power cell. The turquoise glow on her skin surged, washing over the amber, and the sting in his temple vanished. He touched the spot, smooth skin, no cut, no blood. "What the?" Her golden eyes watched him, unblinking. The lines on her skin pulsed softly. "Minor cellular reintegration, you leak too easily." She stepped back, retrieving her hand. "I am Xylia." She didn't offer her hand to shake. "Kale." He eyed her warily. "And where exactly are we, Xylia, since you seem to have salvaged me?" "My vessel," she said simply. "We are traversing the veiled sectors. Your presence complicates my trajectory." "Your trajectory?" Kale pushed himself up, testing his legs, still shaky but functional. "Look, I appreciate the patch-up, really. But just drop me at the nearest port, Rusthaven, scrap heap VII. I'm not picky, I can pay." Xylia made a soft clicking sound, her tail giving a sharp flick. "Payment is irrelevant. Ports are unwise. There are entities searching." "Searching for what?" "For me," she said, the turquoise light dimming slightly, a flicker of violet appearing near her temples. "And now, perhaps for you. You were broadcasting a Terran distress signal. Very loud, very inefficient. Great, just great. Crashed, captured, no, salvaged, by a glowing, touch-healing alien Amazon who thinks he's her property, and now they were both apparently on the run. So, what's the plan, owner?" He asked, leaning back against the cool wall, trying to project confidence he absolutely didn't feel. "Stay alive." Xylia tilted her head again, the violet deepening. "Survival is the primary function, secondary function assessment." Her gaze swept over him, lingering in ways that felt far too personal. Your species is fragile, but generates interesting biosignatures. Before he could retort, an alarm blared, soft but insistent. Red light pulsed through the room, overriding Xylia's internal glow. Her posture changed instantly, going from languid predator to coiled viper. "Define interesting," Kale muttered, heart hammering against his ribs. Xylia ignored him, already moving towards the console he'd almost touched. Her fingers danced over the liquid crystal surface. Proximity alert, unidentified vessel, matching energy signatures with pursuers. She looked back at him, her golden eyes pinning him in place. The turquoise light was completely gone, replaced by a swirling storm of violet and angry crimson. Assessment postponed. Evasion protocols engaged. Do not touch anything, leaking one. Kale wisely decided staying put and shutting up was the best course of action. Xylia moved with a terrifying grace, her hands flying across consoles that lit up in response to her touch. Symbols and schematics he didn't recognize flared and died on the main viewer, a swirling starfield occasionally visible between the data streams. The ship, her vessel, banked sharply, throwing him against the wall. He grunted, catching himself. No artificial gravity, or just selectively applied. Xylia didn't even seem to notice the maneuver, anchored perfectly to the deck. "They are gaining," she stated, her voice flat, stripped of its earlier resonance. The crimson lines on her skin pulsed rapidly, a frantic heartbeat made visible. Predictable hunter tactics, brute force. "Can we outrun them?" Kale asked, gripping a handhold that seemed to mold slightly to his fingers. "Negative. My vessel is configured for stealth, not speed." "Stealth?" He looked around the brightly lit room. "Doesn't seem very stealthy." "External refraction field," she snapped, not looking at him. "Internal aesthetics are irrelevant to function." A loud thud reverberated through the hull, metal groaning in protest. Kale's knuckles whitened on the handhold. "Sounds like they found us." "Tractor beam," Xylia confirmed, her fingers blurring over the controls. "Attempting frequency disruption. Minimal effect." The ship shuddered again, a low hum vibrating through the deck plates. Kale felt a sickening drag, like being pulled backwards through molasses. "Minimal effect, we're caught." "Observation noted," she retorted dryly. Another pulse of crimson flared across her shoulders. "Their technology is aggressively primitive. Overloads are likely." She slammed her palm onto a specific point on the console. A high-pitched whine filled the air, making Kale's teeth ache. On the schematic display, energy seemed to flood from their ship towards the projected image of the pursuer. Feedback loop initiated. For a moment nothing happened, the dragging sensation intensified. Then a violent jolt shook the ship, freeing them. The whining stopped, the tractor beam icon on the display vanished. "Did it work?" Kale breathed. "Temporarily," Xylia said. "They will recalibrate. We require a distraction." She looked at him then, her golden eyes narrowed. The crimson was receding, replaced by a calculating violet. "Your ship, the debris field. What about it?" "Its power core," she said. "Intact." Kale's mind raced back to the moments before the crash. Alarms screaming, systems failing, but the core containment field had held. "Probably. Maybe. I initiated emergency shutdown, but the impact. Sufficient residual energy may remain," Xylia mused, turning back to the console. She tapped a few commands. "We reroute power, overload sequence, remote detonation." "You want to blow up my ship?" Kale felt a pang of loss for the wanderlust, his battered but beloved freighter. "Efficient use of available resources," she replied coolly. "It creates a significant energy flare. It masks our signature. It destroys potential salvage data for them." She initiated the sequence, her movements precise. A timer appeared on a secondary screen, counting down from 60 seconds. "Won't they just go around it?" "Unlikely. Scavenger protocols dictate investigating anomalies. Greed is a powerful motivator." The ship lurched again as she executed another sharp turn, diving towards a denser patch of the nebula shown on the viewer. "Hold," she commanded. This time Kale was ready, bracing himself. The ship seemed to skim the surface of glowing gas clouds, the exterior view dissolving into streaks of color. He could feel the pressure change, the ship buffeted by invisible currents. 30 seconds, 20. Xylia remained focused, piloting them through the cosmic soup with uncanny skill. 10. 5. She suddenly cut the engines, letting inertia carry them. Silence descended, thick and heavy, broken only by the soft hum of the life support. Zero. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, even through the nebulous haze, a brilliant flash erupted far behind them on the viewer. It expanded rapidly, a miniature sun blooming in the void. Xylia watched it, her expression unreadable, the violet light on her skin softening back towards turquoise, laced with silver. "Detonation confirmed," she said, her voice regaining some of its melodic quality. "Pursuit signature vanishing." She reactivated the engine, setting a new, slower course. The immediate danger seemed to have passed. Cale let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He slid down the wall to sit on the floor, suddenly exhausted. "Okay," he said. "Okay, you saved our asses and blew up my ship." Xylia turned from the console, regarded him thoughtfully. The silver streaks pulsed gently. "A necessary sacrifice. Your vessel served a final, useful purpose." She walked towards him, stopping a few feet away. "You require regeneration, sustenance." "I require answers," Cale countered, looking up at her. "Who are you, who's chasing you, and what happens to me now?" She crouched down, bringing her face level with his. The proximity was unnerving again, that strange energy thrumming between them. Her golden eyes seemed to bore right through him. "I am Xylia of the First Resonance, exiled." The silver light intensified, swirling with the turquoise. "They chase me because I carry potential, a threat to the corrupted harmony." She reached out, her scaled fingers gently tracing the line of his jaw. The touch sent shivers down his spine, warm and cool at once. "And you," she murmured, her voice dropping lower, the chimes softening into a hypnotic hum. "You are Cale, the unexpected variable, the interesting fragile thing I pulled from the wreckage." Her thumb brushed his lower lip. "What happens now?" "We survive, together. And perhaps," a spark of amber flickered in her eyes, "we discover other, useful purposes for each other." Cale swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. Her touch wasn't unpleasant, far from it. It was compelling, addictive. Like the faint electrical buzz that accompanied it was waking up nerves he hadn't known existed. He didn't pull away this time. "Useful purposes," he echoed, his voice rough. "That sounds transactional." Xylia tilted her head, the long plume on her tail swaying gently. The silver and turquoise light on her skin seemed to warm, deepen. "All interaction is transaction, Cale. Exchange of energy, information, resonance." Her fingers slid from his jaw to the pulse point on his neck. He could feel the faint thrumming intensify, mirroring his own rapidly accelerating heartbeat. "Is this exchange unfavorable?" Her golden eyes held his, direct and challenging. There was no coyness, no human game playing, just unnerving honesty. He could feel the heat rising in his face. "I haven't decided yet." He managed to sound only slightly breathless. "Maybe lay out the terms first." A low, chiming laugh escaped her. It was a surprisingly musical sound. The light on her skin shimmered, shifting through brighter shades of turquoise and silver, shot through with brief flashes of gold. "Terms," she repeated, clearly amused. "You desire contractual obligation. I desire knowing what the hell is going on." Cale pushed her hand away, more gently this time, and scrambled to his feet. He needed distance. Needed air that didn't smell like ozone and her strange, intoxicating spice. "You talk about resonance and harmony and exile. You heal me with a touch. You blow up my ship without batting an eyelid equivalent. And now you're talking about useful purposes while practically feeling me up. Give me something concrete." Xylia rose fluidly, her expression sobering, the light settling back into a steady turquoise-silver blend. "Concrete," she repeated, testing the word. "You mean data, facts?" "Yes, facts. Start with the pursuers. Who are they?" "My kin," she said simply. The silver light flickered, darkened for a second. "Specifically the enforcers of the corrupted harmony, my siblings by resonance." "Siblings?" Cale stared. "Your family is trying to kill you." "Correction," Xylia said, her voice devoid of emotion. "They are trying to reclaim me. My potential is disruptive to their stasis. If reclamation fails, termination is the secondary protocol. Efficient." "Efficient," Cale muttered, rubbing his temples. "You keep using that word. It is a core principle of the resonance, or was before the corruption." She gestured vaguely around the cabin. "This vessel is old, ancient technology built on true resonance principles. Difficult for them to track accurately, difficult to disable. That is why I sought it." "Okay, so family drama, galactic fugitive edition. And where do I fit in? Her golden eyes scanned him again, that disconcertingly thorough assessment. Initially, nowhere, you were debris, salvage, but your biosignature, it resonated unexpectedly with the vessel's systems during the repairs. And she paused, the silver light pulsing faintly. With me. Resonated, what does that mean? It means, she stepped closer again, invading his newly established personal space without hesitation, there is a compatibility, a potential for synergy. Your presence amplified the feedback loop against the tractor beam. Your proximity seems to stabilize certain fluctuations in my own biofield. She reached out, not touching him, but holding her hand inches from his chest. He could feel the warmth, the static prickle. Fascinating. Kale looked down at her hand, then back up at her face. Compatibility, synergy, stabilizing fluctuations. It sounded like technobabble, but the intensity in her gaze, the tangible energy humming between them, felt anything but clinical. So I'm a battery, a booster pack. She made the clicking sound again. Crude, but not entirely inaccurate, though the resonance is bidirectional. Her eyes flickered down to his lips, then back up. There is also simple curiosity. Your species is legend, chaotic, emotional, prone to illogical bonding rituals. A faint amber pulse accompanied the word bonding. I wish to observe one. Observe? Kale felt a surge of indignation mixed with something else, something annoyingly like arousal. You think I'm going to perform illogical bonding rituals for your scientific amusement? Xylia's lips curved in something that might have been a smile. It looked sharp and predatory on her alien features. Observation often leads to participation, for thoroughness. She finally let her fingers brush against his shirt, right over his heart. The fabric suddenly felt paper-thin, the touch burning through to his skin. The turquoise light on her hand flared brightly. Your primary cardiac muscle accelerates, she noted, her voice a low murmur. Increased respiration, dermal heat fluctuation, standard Terran physiological responses to proximity stress. Or, the amber sparked again, brighter this time, invitation. He wanted to pull away. He really did. His instincts screamed caution. Alien fugitive, possessive tendencies, talks about him like an experiment. But the way she looked at him, the raw curiosity mixed with something possessive and hot, combined with the weird energy thrumming from her touch, it short-circuited his self-preservation. Maybe it's just stress, he said, his voice husky. Having an exiled alien princess who blew up my ship practically propositioned me tends to do that. Princess. The light on her skin shifted, violet and crimson briefly warring with the turquoise. An inaccurate designation. My potential places me outside the hierarchy, above it or below it depending on perspective. She leaned closer, her strange spicy scent filling his senses. But proposition, the amber flared, warm and inviting. Perhaps observation requires active testing. Active testing, Kale repeated, his mind struggling to keep up with the whiplash of her logic and the distracting proximity of her very non-human, very compelling body. What kind of tests are we talking about? Xylia's potential smile widened, showing just a hint of startlingly white, needle-sharp teeth. Sensory compatibility, resonance alignment, tolerance thresholds. Her gaze dropped pointedly to his mouth again. Reciprocity analysis. Right, Kale said, feeling slightly dizzy. Whether from the lingering effects of the crash, the lack of food, or her intense presence, he couldn't tell. Probably all three. Look, Xylia, before we get into reciprocity analysis, maybe food, water, my fragile Terran body has needs. Her expression shifted, the predatory amusement softening into something more akin to genuine consideration. The amber faded, replaced by a calmer turquoise-silver blend. Acknowledged. Sustenance protocols are logical. She stepped back, finally giving him room to breathe. Follow. She turned and glided towards a different section of the cabin, her segmented tail swaying rhythmically. Kale hesitated for only a second before following. What choice did he have? Stranded, hunted, and apparently resonating with his alien rescuer/captor. Plus, he really was starving. She led him to a small alcove dominated by a device that looked like a cross between a nutrient synthesizer and a high-tech jeweler's bench. Intricate crystalline structures pulsed with soft light within a transparent casing. Xylia placed her hand on a panel beside it. The device hummed to life. Specify nutritional requirements, she instructed. A standard Terran profile, protein, carbs, fats, food. She tilted her head. Specify desired sensory input, texture, flavor profile, temperature. Kale blinked. You can customize it. Naturally, nutrient paste is inefficient, discourages optimal consumption. She sounded faintly disdainful. Think about preferred tastes. He thought about sizzling shiprat bacon, a guilty pleasure, spicy synth noodles from the Rusthaven docks, a cold bottle of zero-G lager. Salty, he said, savory, maybe a little spicy, warm. Xylia nodded, her fingers tapping commands onto the panel. Lights swirled within the crystalline matrix. A moment later, a small, steaming bowl materialized in a dispensing slot. It contained a thick, reddish-brown stew dotted with flecks of green and yellow. It smelled amazing. Rich, meaty, with a hint of something smoky and pleasantly sharp. Nutrient ration, synthesized to your requested parameters. Kale took the bowl carefully. It was warm, the material strangely smooth and self-insulating. He found a utensil that looked vaguely spoon-like clipped to the side. He scooped up a mouthful, blew on it cautiously, and took a bite. His eyes widened. It was incredible. Better than any synth meal he'd ever had. Complex flavors exploded on his tongue, savory, salty, a slow-building heat with hints of herbs he couldn't name. The texture was hearty, satisfying. Wow, he managed around a mouthful. This is really good. Xylia watched him, a faint silver pulse illuminating her features. Optimal nutrient delivery encourages positive physiological response, enhances efficiency. Yeah, well, it's also delicious, Kale said, taking another large spoonful. You eat this stuff. My requirements are different, she said, gesturing to a small, glowing crystal resting on the console. I absorb ambient energy and supplement with focused resonance infusions. She picked up the crystal. It pulsed brightly in her hand. You require conversion of matter. He finished the stew quickly, feeling warmth spread through him, energy returning. He placed the empty bowl back in the dispenser slot where it dematerialized with a soft chime. Okay, he said, feeling significantly better. Thank you, seriously. Gratitude is an interesting emotional layer, Xylia observed, tilting her head. Is it linked to the bonding rituals? Sometimes, Kale admitted. It's about acknowledging help, connection. Connection, she repeated, the silver light deepening. She stepped closer again, that magnetic pull reasserting itself. The resonance between us is a form of connection, more direct, less abstract. She reached out, her fingers hovering just above his arm. May I test the reciprocity now? He hesitated. Food coma versus alien proposition. His brain screamed bad idea, but his body, energized and weirdly attuned to her presence, hummed with a different kind of anticipation. The memory of her touch, the jolt of energy, the way the lights on her skin responded. It was intoxicating. What exactly does this test involve? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Xylia's golden eyes gleamed. A simple exchange of bioresonant energy, a diagnostic touch, to gauge alignment. Her fingers lightly brushed his forearm. This time the jolt was less startling, more like a warm current flowing beneath his skin. The turquoise light on her hand brightened significantly, swirling with silver patterns. He watched, fascinated, as corresponding faint lines of light seemed to momentarily trace the veins beneath his own skin where she touched him. Fascinating, she murmured, her gaze fixed on the interplay of light. Your system is receptive, more than anticipated. Her touch slid upwards, tracing the curve of his bicep. The warmth intensified, pooling pleasantly in his muscles. He didn't pull away. Couldn't almost, it felt good, calming and energizing at the same time. Receptive, he echoed, his voice thick. Your biofield actively accepts the resonance, she explained, her voice taking on that low, hypnotic hum again. Her fingers reached his shoulder, gently kneading the tense muscle there. He let out an involuntary sigh as the tension melted away under her strange, therapeutic touch. It seeks equilibrium, harmony. Her other hand came up, resting lightly on his chest, directly over his heart. He could feel the steady thrum of energy from her palm, syncing with his own heartbeat, which was definitely not calm anymore. The light on her chest mirrored the glow on her hand, a soft, pulsing turquoise silver. This resonance, she murmured, her golden eyes meeting his, wide and intense. It feels familiar, like a missing chord. Before Kale could process that, her head dipped, and her lips, cool, smooth, and surprisingly soft, pressed against his. The kiss wasn't like anything Kale had ever experienced. It wasn't just lips meeting lips. It was an energy transfer, a jolt that bypassed thought and went straight to sensation. He felt the resonance she spoke of, a hum that vibrated through his bones, originating from the points of contact, her lips on his, her hand on his chest, her fingers gripping his shoulder. The turquoise and silver light on her skin flared, washing over them both, and for a dizzying second he felt like he could perceive the faint echo of her thoughts, a swirl of intense curiosity, possessiveness, and something akin to wonder. He responded instinctively, his hand coming up to cup the back of her neck. Her skin was cool and smooth beneath his palm, the scales surprisingly pliant. He felt the delicate structures beneath, the thrum of energy more pronounced here. She made a soft sound in her throat, a low chime, and pressed closer, deepening the kiss. Her sharp teeth grazed his lower lip, sending another spike of unexpected pleasure through him. This wasn't gentle exploration. It had an edge, a primal demand that was both terrifying and exhilarating. He met her intensity, kissing her back with a sudden, fierce need that surprised him. The logical part of his brain was screaming warnings, alien, dangerous, unknown biology, siblings trying to kill her, but it was drowned out by the overwhelming sensory input, the raw connection thrumming between them. Her tail came around, brushing against his leg, the feathery tip surprisingly sensitive, sending shivers up his spine. He gasped into the kiss, and she took advantage, her tongue, surprisingly human-like in shape, though perhaps a fraction too long, darting into his mouth. It tasted faintly of ozone and that exotic spice, a clean, electric tang. The resonance spiked, becoming almost overwhelming. He felt dizzy, overloaded, clinging to her as the cabin seemed to tilt around him. The light pulsing from her skin brightened, illuminating the small space in shifting patterns of turquoise, silver, and now, flashes of intense, hot gold. He felt a response within himself, not light but heat, pooling low in his belly, spreading through his limbs. It was as if her energy was igniting something dormant within him. She pulled back abruptly, breaking the kiss. They were both breathing heavily. Her golden eyes were wide, pupils dilated, fixed on his face. The light on her skin was a frantic, brilliant storm of gold and silver. "The reciprocity," she whispered, her voice husky, the chime roughened. "It is significant." She touched his lips with trembling fingers. "Your biosignature flares in response, amplifies." Kale struggled to catch his breath, his mind reeling. "Yeah, well," he managed, his own voice unsteady. "You're kind of intense." He reached up, his thumb brushing over the sharp line of her cheekbone, tracing the edge of a scale. The light beneath his touch seemed to pulse in welcome. "Is that bad?" A flicker of something that looked almost like uncertainty crossed her features, quickly masked. "Intensity is efficient," she stated, though her voice lacked its usual conviction. The gold light softened slightly, swirling with the silver. "But this level of resonant amplification is undocumented between our species." She stepped back, putting a crucial foot of space between them, though the energy still crackled in the air. "Further testing requires controlled conditions, preparation." Kale almost laughed. Controlled conditions. After that kiss, control felt like a distant memory, but he nodded, recognizing the need to slow down to process. "Okay, preparation." "What kind?" Xylia's gaze swept over him again, but this time it felt less like assessment and more like possessive inventory. "You require rest, full system integration of the nutrient ration and the initial resonant exchange." She gestured towards another alcove he hadn't noticed, concealed behind a shimmering energy field that now dissolved. Inside was a low couch or bed, molded from the same softly glowing material as the walls. "Regeneration cycle is necessary for optimal performance." "Formance?" Kale raised an eyebrow, still sounding transactional. "All life is transaction," she countered, the gold flaring briefly again. "But some transactions offer greater returns." She walked towards the bed alcove. "Rest. I must analyze the data from our interaction and monitor for external threats." She paused at the edge of the alcove, looking back at him. The light on her skin had settled into a deep, pulsing silver, calming but potent. "Do not attempt to leave this vessel, Kale." The exterior environment is hostile, and her golden eyes locked onto his, serious and unwavering. You are still mine, by salvage, by resonance. She turned and the energy field shimmered back into place, hiding the bed from view. Cale stood there for a long moment, the echo of her kiss still tingling on his lips, the hum of resonance still vibrating faintly in his chest. He was trapped on an alien ship with a fugitive princess, whose family wanted her dead or captured, who considered him her property and who kissed like a supernova. And the terrifying part, he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to leave. He walked over to the alcove, the energy field parting silently before him. The bed looked surprisingly comfortable. He sank onto it, the material contouring perfectly to his body, radiating a gentle warmth. Exhaustion washed over him, sudden and complete. The combination of the crash, the healing, the nutrient-dense food, and the intense reciprocity analysis had drained him. As sleep claimed him, his last conscious thought was of Xylia's golden eyes, the swirling lights on her skin, and the terrifying, undeniable fact that a part of him, the illogical, chaotic Terran part she seemed so fascinated by, was already starting to feel a connection. A dangerous, stupid, exhilarating connection. Cale woke slowly, feeling more rested than he had in months. The low hum of the ship was a soothing background noise. He stretched, muscles protesting slightly but feeling whole, healed. The memory of the kiss, Xylia's intense energy, flooded back, making his pulse quicken. He sat up. The energy field blocking the alcove was gone. The main cabin was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from the softly glowing walls and the turquoise patterns pulsing gently on Xylia's skin. She was back at the main console, seemingly absorbed in the complex displays. Her tail swayed in a slow, contemplative rhythm. He swung his legs off the bed, his bare feet silent on the floor. He needed clothes. His flight suit had been shredded in the crash, and he was currently wearing only thin, soft gray trousers and a tunic provided by the ship's synthesizer, comfortable but leaving him feeling exposed. "Morning," he said, his voice raspy. "Or equivalent." Xylia turned, her golden eyes instantly finding him in the dimness. The turquoise light warmed slightly, silver threads appearing. "Regeneration cycle complete. Your vital signs are optimal." "Glad to hear it," Cale said, walking towards the nutrient synthesizer. "Think I could get some clothes, something with pockets?" She tilted her head. "Pockets for carrying small, inefficient objects." "Exactly. Keys, comlinks, tools, contraband." She made the soft clicking sound. "Synthesizing now." A panel slid open, revealing neatly folded dark trousers, a sturdy tunic, and boots, all seemingly made of a durable, slightly textured fabric. They even looked roughly his size. He grabbed them, feeling marginally more secure. As he started to pull on the tunic, Xylia approached, stopping close, watching him dress with unnerving focus. "Did your analysis turn up anything interesting?" he asked, trying to distract from her scrutiny. "Beyond my apparent compatibility." The silver in her glow intensified. "The resonance patterns are unique, unprecedented amplitude modulation, suggests a deeper harmonic potential than initially theorized." She reached out, tracing the line of the new tunic across his shoulder. Her touch, even through the fabric, sent a familiar jolt through him. "It also confirms vulnerability." "Vulnerability," he frowned, pulling the tunic down. "Mine or yours?" "Mutual," she said, her gaze serious. "Such strong resonance creates feedback. Emotional transference, sensory amplification." Her fingers brushed the side of his neck, seeking the pulse point again. "Pleasure is magnified, but so is pain. Danger to one is danger to both on a fundamental level." Cale stilled. "Emotional transference. Danger to one is danger to both." This sounded way beyond useful purposes or active testing. This sounded like bonding, the very thing she'd seemed clinically curious about. "So if you get hurt," he said slowly, "I feel it." "Theoretically, the full extent is untested." The silver light pulsed strongly. "My exile was predicated on avoiding such uncontrolled bonds. The corrupted harmony demands sterile resonance, predictable, controlled. And we're unpredictable." "Highly," she confirmed, a flicker of amber warming the silver, "which makes us a greater threat. And potentially," her eyes held his, "more powerful." He searched her face. Exile, danger, power, vulnerability, it was a lot to take in. But beneath the alien logic and talk of resonance, he sensed something else. a loneliness, a need for connection that mirrored his own guarded desires. "Okay," he said softly, "so we're vulnerable together." He covered her hand on his neck with his own. Her skin was cool, but the energy thrumming beneath was warm, alive. "What now, Xylia?" She leaned into his touch slightly, a subtle, almost unconscious movement, her tail stilled. "Now we locate a sanctuary, a place beyond the reach of my kin. A place to understand this resonance, to consolidate. Consolidate our connection," she clarified, her voice dropping to that low, hypnotic hum. "Strengthen the bond, explore its potential." Her thumb brushed his jawline. "There are Xyler legends, whispers of first resonance pairings that could reshape reality, create harmonies the current order cannot comprehend." Reshape reality. Kale felt a skeptical eyebrow rise, despite the energy buzzing under his skin. "Sounds a little grandiose." "Perhaps," she conceded. "Or perhaps the legends hold truth. The potential is there in the resonance." She met his skepticism with unwavering golden eyes. "Are you unwilling to discover the truth, Kale?" He looked at her, the strange beauty of her shifting skin, the intensity in her eyes, the undeniable pull he felt towards her, danger and all. He thought of his life before, scavenging, scraping by, always running, always alone. This was insane. This was terrifying. But it was also more alive than he'd felt in years. "No," he said, his voice firm. "No, I'm not unwilling." A slow, genuine smile touched Xylia's lips this time. It transformed her face, softening the sharp edges, making her look unexpectedly beautiful. The light on her skin flared, a dazzling mix of gold, silver, and vibrant turquoise. "Good," she breathed. "Then the true test begins." Before he could ask what that meant, the ship lurched violently, alarms blaring again, bathing the cabin in strobing red light. Xylia whirled towards the console, her smile vanishing, replaced by a snarl. Crimson flooded her skin, chasing away the softer colors. "They found us," she hissed, her voice sharp with fury. "Impossible, the debris field, the nebula. Maybe they're better hunters than you thought," Kale suggested, moving to stand beside her, peering at the tactical display. Several hostile contacts were converging fast. "Or maybe," Xylia said, her voice dangerously low, the crimson deepening, "they had a tracker placed during my departure." Her hands flew over the controls, executing evasive maneuvers, but the ship felt sluggish, damaged perhaps. "They anticipated my destination." Another hit rocked the vessel, sparks showering from an overhead conduit. "Shields failing," Kale yelled unnecessarily. "I see it," Xylia snarled. She activated weapon systems, firing bursts of energy that seemed small, insignificant against the approaching firepower. "They want me alive, for now. But they will not hesitate to disable the vessel." She glanced at him, her eyes burning with crimson light. "And they will terminate you without question." The reality of the situation crashed down on Kale. This wasn't just her fight anymore, it was his. They were linked, vulnerable together. "What do we do?" he asked, his hand finding the back of her waist, a grounding touch. She leaned into it almost imperceptibly, her focus absolute on the unfolding battle. "There is only one option," she said, her voice grim. "A place they dare not follow, not directly." She keyed in a complex sequence, overriding multiple safety protocols. The ship's engine pitch changed, deepening into a guttural roar. "We jump, blind." "Blind into where?" "Uncharted space," she replied. "Known on old Terran star charts as the grave of empires. My vessel's navigation core contains fragmented data, enough for a short, random vector, enough to escape them." She slammed her fist onto the activation panel. "Hold on, Kale. This will be turbulent." The ship seemed to tear itself apart, reality dissolving outside the viewports into a chaotic smear of light and color. Kale gripped Xylia tight as the vessel bucked and screamed, praying her turbulent was an understatement and not their final epitaph. The jump felt less like travel and more like being violently disassembled and haphazardly reassembled nanoseconds later. Kale's teeth rattled, his vision blurred, and the G-forces pressed him deep into the deck plating, even as he held onto Xylia. She was rigid beside him, her body vibrating with the ship's stress, crimson light pulsing erratically across her scales. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Silence crashed down, absolute and unnerving after the chaos. The viewports cleared, revealing nothing, just blackness, deeper, emptier than standard void. No stars, no nebulae, just an oppressive, ink-dark emptiness. "Did we make it?" Kale gasped, pushing himself up. The cabin lights flickered, then stabilized at a low level. Systems whined in protest, damage reports scrolling rapidly across a secondary screen. "Affirmative," Xylia said, her voice tight. She ran a diagnostic, her fingers moving slower now, more deliberately. Crimson on her skin slowly receded, replaced by a weary, flickering turquoise. "We are elsewhere. The pursuer's signatures are gone." She slumped slightly against the console, a wave of exhaustion washing over her visible features. But the jump inflicted significant system damage. Propulsion is offline. Long-range comms non-existent. Life support is functional but strained. Kale looked at the damage reports. They weren't good. Multiple critical systems were offline or failing. "Can we fix it?" "Systems, perhaps. With time, resources we lack." She pushed away from the console, turning to face him fully. Her usual predatory grace was diminished, replaced by a vulnerability he hadn't seen before. The light on her skin was dim, uncertain. "We escaped immediate capture, Kale, but we are adrift, stranded in nowhere." He stepped towards her, instinctively wanting to offer comfort, support. "Hey, we're alive, we're together, that's something." He reached out, gently touching her arm. Skin felt cool, the light faint beneath his fingers. Instead of the usual jolt, there was only a faint, tired hum. Her energy reserves were clearly depleted. She looked down at his hand, then up at his face. Her golden eyes seemed clouded. "Together," she repeated softly, "and vulnerable." She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his shoulder for just a moment. It was a startlingly intimate gesture, devoid of her usual dominance or analytical curiosity. It felt weary. Human almost. He wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. Her body felt tense beneath the scales, the strain of the escape and the jump taking its toll. "We'll figure it out, Xylia," he murmured, resting his cheek against the cool scales of her head. "We survived them. We can survive this." She stayed there for a few breaths, drawing strength perhaps from the contact. Then she straightened, pulling back slightly, though she didn't move out of his embrace entirely. "Survival requires action." Assessment of resources. Her voice regained a little of its usual strength. "The ship's internal fabricators are functional. We can synthesize basic repair components, but raw materials are limited." "What about outside?" Kale asked, looking towards the blank viewports. "Anything out there? Sensors picking up anything?" Xylia moved back to the console, her focus returning. She activated the external sensors, running deep scans. The turquoise light on her skin pulsed weakly as she interfaced with the ship. Minutes passed in tense silence. "There is something," she said finally, frowning at the display. "A faint energy signature, extremely low frequency, and biological traces, biological like a planet, unclear. The signature is weak, masked by subspace interference common in this region." She magnified the readings. "It appears to be drifting, not gravitationally bound, a derelict, a station." She initiated passive scans, trying to get a visual lock. Slowly, an image began to coalesce on the main viewer. It wasn't a ship or a station. It was organic. A colossal dark shape, vaguely resembling a colossal seed pod or a petrified spacefaring creature, covered in craggy, bioluminescent growths that pulsed with faint, sickly green light. It tumbled slowly through the blackness, shedding small fragments. "What in the hells is that?" Kale breathed. "Unknown," Xylia replied, her own light flickering with unease. "Ancient, possibly predating the Xylar resonance itself. The biological readings are dormant or decaying." "Think there's anything useful aboard? Power cells, raw materials?" "Possibly." Xylia zoomed in on a section of the derelict. "Sensors indicate residual energy pockets within the structure, and dense metallic traces, but the decay signature is concerning. High levels of exotic radiation." She looked at him, her golden eyes reflecting the eerie green glow from the screen. "Boarding it would be extremely hazardous." "More hazardous than drifting here until life support gives out," Kale countered. "We need parts, Xylia, we need options." She considered this, her tail giving a slow, thoughtful swish. The turquoise light steadied slightly, a flicker of determination returning. "The risk is substantial. Environmental suits offer limited protection against such radiation." But she conceded, passivity ensures failure. Action offers possibility. She turned fully towards him, the light on her skin gaining a touch more intensity. "We require a plan, minimal exposure, targeted salvage." "Okay, what do we need most?" "Primary propulsion components, shield emitters, anything compatible with the vessel's energy matrix." She pointed to a specific area on the derelict's image. "Scans indicate a concentrated energy source here. Likely a primary core or node. Highest risk, highest potential reward." "Right, in and out, grab what we can near the core and run." "Precisely." She moved towards the ship's small equipment locker. "Suit integrity checks are necessary, and we will need cutting tools." As they prepared, checking seals on the bulky environmental suits, gathering plasma cutters and scanning equipment, a strange tension settled between them. The earlier intimacy felt distant, overshadowed by the immediate need for survival. Yet the awareness of their connection, the shared vulnerability, remained. "This resonance," Kale said, breaking the silence as he sealed his helmet clamps. "You said pain transfers." "Potentially," Xylia's voice came back over the suit comms, slightly tinny. "Why? Just be careful in there," he said gruffly, checking his own seals. "Don't want to feel you stub your toe from across a giant space corpse." He heard her soft clicking sound over the comms. "Your concern is noted, reciprocated." They cycled through the ship's small airlock, the outer door opening onto the oppressive blackness of the grave of empires. The derelict loomed before them, immense and silent, its faint green glow pulsing like a dying heart. Using short bursts from their suit thrusters, they crossed the void, the only sound their own breathing and the crackle of the comms. Landing on the craggy, strangely yielding surface felt like stepping onto ancient, diseased coral. The airless silence was profound. "Scanner activated," Kale reported, sweeping the device across the surface. "Radiation levels are high but within suit tolerance for now. Let's find that core." Following Xylia's lead, they navigated the treacherous surface, tethered together for safety, towards the designated energy signature. The derelict groaned around them, phantom stresses echoing through the structure. It felt deeply wrong, a place long dead that refused to lie quiet. Reaching the target area, they found a rupture in the organic hull, a dark maw leading inside. "Energy readings spiked beyond this point," Xylia warned. "Maximum exposure risk." "No pain, no gain," Kale muttered, activating the plasma cutter. He sliced through obstructing growths, the beam hissing in the vacuum. They pushed inside into the cavernous, dimly lit interior of the ancient behemoth. Strange, desiccated structures hung from the ceiling like petrified organs, and the floor was littered with debris that might have been technology or bone. The green bioluminescence was stronger here, casting eerie shadows. And then they saw it. Nestled deep within a tangle of crystalline structures and hardened biocabling was a pulsing sphere of contained energy. It leaked ambient power, the source of the signature they'd tracked. But surrounding it, half embedded in the decaying structure, were shapes. Skeletal remains, dozens of them. Different species, some vaguely familiar from galactic databases, others utterly alien. All caught in frozen tableaus of reaching, grasping, dying. "What happened here?" Kale whispered, horrified. "It seems," Xylia murmured, her voice tight with revulsion, "this place doesn't give up its treasures easily." Before they could react further, a section of the wall nearby seemed to detach itself, unfolding into a multi-limbed horror of chitin and decaying flesh, lunging towards them with surprising speed, its green eyes burning with mindless hunger. "Contact!" Kale yelled, shoving Xylia back as the creature swiped with a scythe-like limb, narrowly missing his head. He brought the plasma cutter around, firing a sustained beam at its torso. The creature shrieked, a high-pitched silent scream that echoed in Kale's helmet audio pickup as superheated biomatter vaporized. It staggered but didn't fall. Xylia recovered instantly, drawing a sleek energy pistol Kale hadn't seen her carry before. She fired precise shots, striking the creature's joints. Stumbled, limbs buckling. "More," she warned, pointing deeper into the shadows. Other shapes were detaching themselves from the walls, shambling towards them, reanimated husks, puppets of whatever malevolent energy permeated this place. "Forget the core," Kale shouted, grabbing Xylia's arm. "We need to go now." "Agreed," she fired rapidly, covering their retreat as Kale used the cutter to carve a path back towards the hull breach. The creatures were slow but relentless, driven by some necrotic hunger. One lunged, catching Kale's leg, its claws tearing through the outer layer of his suit. Pain flared, sharp and cold. He cried out, blasting the creature point-blank with the cutter. Simultaneously, he felt a secondary jolt, not his own pain but an echo of it, sharp and disorienting, through the comlink, through the resonance. He glanced at Xylia. She'd flinched, her hand going to her own leg for a split second, her turquoise light flickering wildly under the suit's visor, mixed with crimson flashes of alarm. "You felt that?" he gasped, scrambling backwards. Affirmative, pain transference confirmed. "Move." The confirmation, horrifying as it was, spurred them on. They couldn't afford injuries, not when the other would be instantly debilitated. They burst back out onto the surface of the derelict, the black void a welcome sight after the charnel house inside. Behind them, the creatures clawed at the edges of the breach, unwilling or unable to pursue them into the vacuum. "Airlock, quick!" Kale urged, firing his thrusters. They flew back towards Xylia's ship, the derelict receding behind them, its sickly green glow seeming to watch them go. They tumbled into the airlock, cycling it frantically. As the inner door hissed open, Kale ripped his helmet off, breathing heavily. Xylia did the same, her face pale beneath the shifting scales, her light still flickering erratically. He immediately checked his leg. The suit had held, mostly. A nasty gash in the outer layer, but the inner seal was intact. Just bruising and a minor pressure tear beneath. Xylia knelt beside him, her cool fingers probing the damaged suit material, then gently touching the bruised skin underneath. Her turquoise light pulsed, and a familiar warmth spread through the tissue, easing the ache instantly. "Minor damage," she assessed, her voice regaining some composure. The resonance amplified the sensation disproportionately. She looked up at him, her golden eyes wide and serious. "This bond. It makes us incredibly vulnerable in combat." Kale met her gaze, the shared experience, the echoed pain, forging something stronger than the fear. "Yeah, or," he offered her a hand, pulling her up, "it means we have to be twice as careful, twice as protective, of each other." She took his hand, her scaled fingers interlacing with his. The contact felt different now, not just energy but shared history, shared danger. The light on her skin steadied, settling into a deep, resonant silver blue. "Protection," she murmured, "a logical imperative." She didn't let go of his hand. "We failed to retrieve the necessary components." "We survived," Kale countered. "That's priority one, right? We're still adrift, but we're alive." "True," she conceded, "but survival requires resources. Our situation remains precarious." She finally released his hand and moved back to the console, her movements regaining their efficiency. "The derelict is too hazardous. We require an alternative." She began scanning their immediate surroundings again, pushing the ship's damaged sensors to their limits. Kale watched her, the image of her flinching from his pain seared into his mind. The bond wasn't theoretical anymore. It was real, tangible, dangerous. And yet, the thought of severing it, if that were even possible, felt wrong. He walked over to the nutrient synthesizer. "Need an energy boost?" he asked. "After that resonance drain?" She glanced back, a faint, almost imperceptible softening around her eyes. "Affirmative. Regeneration cycle would be beneficial." While she worked, Kale synthesized another warm, savory meal for himself and requested a focused resonance infusion crystal for her. She accepted it wordlessly, holding the pulsing crystal in her palm, seeming to draw energy directly from it. The light on her skin slowly brightened, the weary dimness fading. They ate or absorbed in silence for a while, the near disaster hanging heavy in the air. "Xylia," Kale said finally, "your family, the enforcers, would they follow you here? Into the grave?" She lowered the crystal, her expression hardening. "Unlikely. This region is proscribed territory even for them. Ancient treaties, older fears, they believe me lost. So we have time." "Time," she agreed, "but time does not repair propulsion drives." Her sensors pinged softly. She turned back to the console, frowning. Another signature, different profile, not Xyler, not dead. Kale was instantly alert. "Hostile, unknown. Signal is weak, intermittent, appears to be drifting like the derelict, but emitting pattern bursts. A distress signal." She amplified the signal, filtering out the background interference. Faint, blocky code scrolled across the screen. "Standard galactic trade pigeon. Simple, repeating loop. SOS Mayday, critical systems failure adrift, location tagged SOS. Freighter, Kale said, recognizing the code structure. Looks like a standard K-class hauler, old model. Life signs, Xylia queried the system. Faint, one maybe two, heavily shielded section. She cross-referenced the location tag with their position. Close, within short-range thruster capability even with our limited power. They looked at each other. Another potential salvage opportunity, another risk. Could be a trap, Kale said. Pirates feigning distress. Possible, Xylia acknowledged. Or it could be genuine, a source of parts, supplies, information. Her gaze was calculating. The vessel appears functional structurally, more intact than ours. Kale thought about it. A functioning freighter, even an old K-class, would be a lifeline. Parts, maybe even a working jump drive, but the risk, the bond, he said quietly. If it's a trap, we both feel it. Which doubles the risk, Xylia finished. And potentially halves our reaction time if one of us is incapacitated by shared trauma. She looked at the distress signal pulsing on the screen, then back at him. The silver-blue light on her skin held a steady resolve. However, inaction guarantees slow decay. Calculated risk remains the optimal path to survival. She met his eyes, a challenge in her golden depths. Are you willing, Kale, to risk the echo of pain for the possibility of freedom? He thought of the derelict, the reanimated horrors, the echo of his own pain hitting her. He thought of being stranded here, slowly dying in the dark. He thought of her, this impossible, fascinating, dangerous alien who felt like his. Okay, he said, nodding slowly. Let's answer the damn phone. Prepping for the second potential salvage felt different. Less frantic, more focused. They knew the risks, knew the stakes, knew the strange, intimate danger of their bond. Kale donned his patched-up environmental suit, Xylia hers. They gathered tools, medkit essentials, and Xylia kept her energy pistol holstered visibly at her hip this time. Short-range thrusters only, Xylia confirmed, plotting a minimal energy course towards the freighter's coordinates. We conserve power. Maintain stealth profile as much as possible until we verify the situation. Right. Kale checked his helmet comms. Stay linked. Constant status updates. If anything feels off, we pull back. Immediately. Agreed. The silver-blue light of resolve pulsed steadily on her visible skin beneath the helmet's faceplate. They exited the airlock once more, the vast, starless void of the grave of empires surrounding them. This time, instead of the monstrous organic derelict, they saw the faint running lights of a standard freighter design, drifting listlessly a few kilometers away. It looked battered, scarred by micrometeoroids or perhaps weapons fire, but largely intact. Looks quiet, Kale observed over the comms as they approached using careful thruster bursts. Too quiet. Sensors still detect faint life signs in the shielded bridge area, Xylia reported. Minimal power fluctuations. Consistent with emergency life support. They reached the freighter's main cargo bay airlock. It was sealed but dark. No external power. No response to hails, Kale said, running a bypass attempt on the outer door controls. Sparks flew, but the door remained stubbornly shut. Manual override required. He pulled out the plasma cutter again. It felt heavier this time, the memory of the derelict creatures fresh. As he began cutting through the thick outer door, Xylia stood guard, pistol raised, scanning the silent hull. The screech of the cutter was loud in the vacuum-amplified silence. Finally, the section gave way, revealing the inner door. Kale repeated the process, sweat prickling under his suit despite the cold. The inner door swung open into darkness. Emergency lights flickered weakly within, casting long, dancing shadows. The air inside smelled stale, metallic, with an underlying unpleasant sweetness Kale couldn't place. Ship's internal atmosphere is thin, contaminated, Xylia noted, checking her suit readouts. Keep helmets sealed. They moved cautiously into the cargo bay. It was vast, filled with lashed-down containers, some broken open, spilling debris. Dust motes danced in the weak emergency lighting. Looks like they hit trouble, Kale murmured, shining his helmet lamp around. Asteroid field, pirates. Unknown. Xylia kept her pistol ready, her movements fluid and alert. Life signs are localized forward. Bridge section. They navigated through the maze of cargo containers, boots crunching on spilled pellets of something inert. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the hum of their suit fans and the occasional creak of stressed metal. As they neared the bulkhead leading to the crew quarters and bridge, the sweet, cloying smell intensified. "Getting definite trap vibes now," Kale muttered, gripping his plasma cutter like a weapon. "Agreed. Proceed with maximum caution." Xylia took the lead, pushing open the bulkhead door. It opened onto a corridor equally dark, emergency lights flickering even more erratically here. Debris littered the floor. And then they saw it. Lying halfway down the corridor, sprawled near a junction, was a body. Humanoid, wearing a standard vac suit, helmet cracked open, lifeless. Kale shone his light on it, no obvious wounds. Xylia knelt beside it, running her suit's scanner over the body. Life signs terminated. Cause of death, asphyxiation. Toxin, she indicated the cracked helmet. Suit failure. Suddenly, a low groan echoed from further down the corridor towards the bridge. They froze, weapons ready. "Hello," Kale called out tentatively. "Anyone there? We saw your distress signal." Another groan, weaker this time, a scraping sound. They exchanged glances. Trap or genuine survivor? "Cover me," Kale whispered, moving slowly forward, plasma cutter held at the ready. Xylia followed, pistol sweeping the corridor ahead. They reached the bridge door. It was partially open, jammed. Peeking inside, Kale saw the source of the sound. A single figure slumped in the captain's chair, also in a vac suit, helmet obscuring their face. They were clutching their side, breathing raggedly. The bridge itself was a wreck. Consoles shattered, view screens dark. Emergency power kept a few dim lights on, illuminating the devastation. "Hey," Kale said softly, stepping fully into the bridge. "We're here to help. What happened?" The figure stirred, slowly raising their head. Through the helmet's visor, Kale could see pale skin, wide, terrified eyes, human. A woman, maybe 30 standard years old. They came aboard," she rasped, her voice thin and reedy through her helmet speaker. "Took everything, killed the others, sabotage." "Who did?" Xylia demanded, stepping forward, pistol still aimed cautiously. "Pirates, slavers." "Worse," the woman choked out, a tremor running through her. "The collectors." Kale and Xylia exchanged a look. Collectors, scavengers of a different, more predatory kind. Known for stripping ships bare and leaving no witnesses. Usually operated on the fringes, not this deep in uncharted space. "They sabotaged life support, the engines," the woman gasped, clutching her side again. "Left me, waited for me to die." "Okay, easy now," Kale said, lowering the cutter slightly. "We'll get you out of here. What's your name?" "Lissa," she whispered. "Captain Lissa." "All right, Captain Lissa," Kale said soothingly. "Can you walk?" She shook her head weakly. "Legs broken, think internal bleeding." Xylia moved closer, her scanner active. "Multiple injuries consistent with blunt force trauma. Suit integrity compromised near the wound. She requires immediate medical attention." Kale nodded. "Okay, Lissa, we're gonna get you back to our ship. It's small, but the med bay works." As Kale moved to help her, Xylia suddenly stiffened, her pistol snapping back up, aimed not at Lissa but at the shadowed corner behind the captain's chair. "Movement," Xylia hissed. Kale froze. Lissa let out a small whimper. Slowly, a figure detached itself from the deepest shadows. Tall, unnaturally thin, clad in black, form-fitting armor that seemed to absorb the light. Its helmet was insectoid, multi-lensed, reflecting the dim bridge lights. It held a wicked-looking neurodisruptor rifle. "A collector. Impressive senses, Xyler," a synthesized voice buzzed from the collector's helmet. "You detected the resonance damper." Lissa suddenly lunged, not away but at Kale, a vibroknife appearing in her hand as if by magic. Kale reacted instantly, twisting away, the blade slicing through his suit's outer fabric near his ribs but missing flesh. Pain flared, echoed instantly by a gasp from Xylia over the comms as the resonance hit her. He shoved Lissa hard, sending her sprawling. The collector fired its rifle, not at Kale or Xylia but at the bridge's main console. It exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging the bridge into near-total darkness, save for their helmet lamps and Xylia's faint, flickering crimson glow. "Trap!" Kale yelled, scrambling back as Lissa came at him again with the knife, her movements suddenly fast and vicious, no longer the wounded victim. "I know." Xylia snapped, firing her pistol towards the collector's position, the energy bolts illuminating the chaos in brief, strobing flashes. The bridge became a whirlwind of darkness, flashing energy bolts and desperate movement. Kale parried Lissa's wild knife slashes with the bulky plasma cutter, the high-pitched whine of the blade scraping against the tool grating on his nerves. Every time she connected, even glancing blows against his suit, he felt the sharp sting, immediately followed by Xylia's gasped echo of pain over the comms, distracting and terrifying. He needed to end this fast. She's tougher than she looks. Kale grunted, dodging a vicious stab aimed at his helmet visor. Focus on the collector, Xylia yelled back, laying down suppressing fire towards the black-armored figure who moved with unnatural speed through the shadows, firing targeted bursts from its neurodisruptor. One blast hit the bulkhead near Kale, and even the proximity sent a wave of sickening disorientation through him. He saw Xylia stumble as the amplified effect hit her through the bond. This resonance was a liability here. Lissa pressed her attack, a crazed fury in her eyes visible even through her visor. "They promised me passage," she screamed, lunging again. "Promise me escape from this hellhole." Kale saw his opening. As she lunged, he pivoted, letting her momentum carry her past, and slammed the heavy base of the plasma cutter into the back of her helmet. There was a sickening crack and she collapsed motionless. He didn't wait to check her status, whirling towards the collector just as Xylia cried out, a sharp intake of breath that wasn't an echo of his pain. He saw her stagger back, clutching her shoulder, her pistol clattering to the deck. The collector stood over her, rifle aimed. "The Xyler specimen will fetch a high price," the synthesized voice buzzed. "Intact, preferably." Rage, cold and absolute, surged through Kale. Seeing Xylia hurt, threatened, ignited something primal within him. Without thinking, driven purely by instinct and the thrumming, terrified energy pouring from Xylia through the bond, he charged. He activated the plasma cutter, not as a tool but as a weapon, swinging the high-energy beam in a wide, horizontal arc. The collector, focused on the downed Xylia, reacted a fraction too late. The plasma beam sliced clean through the neurodisruptor rifle and kept going, carving a deep, cauterized gash across the collector's chest armor. The creature shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, staggering back, black fluid spraying from the wound. It raised its remaining arm, claws extended, but Kale didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, ramming the emitter head of the cutter directly into the center of the collector's insectoid helmet. There was a blinding flash, a horrific smell of burning electronics and cooked alien flesh, and the collector crumpled, silenced. Silence descended again, thick and heavy, broken only by Kale's ragged breathing and the faint, pained whimpers coming from Xylia over the comms. He deactivated the cutter, its menacing hum dying away, and rushed to her side. "Xylia, talk to me. Are you hit?" He knelt beside her, gently helping her sit up. Her light was dim, flickering erratically between pain crimson and terrified violet. "Neurodisruptor," she gasped, clutching her shoulder. "Close-range suit absorbed most, but the resonance." She shuddered violently. Synaptic overload feedback. He quickly scanned her shoulder with his suit's diagnostic tool. No penetration, severe nerve trauma, maybe microfractures from the impact. He looked at her visor, wishing he could see her eyes. Okay, breathe, can you move?" She tested her arm, wincing, but managed a slight rotation. Functional, impaired. She looked past him at the two bodies. "Threats neutralized." "Neutralized," Kale confirmed grimly. He looked at the dead collector, then back at Lissa's still form. A fake distress call, a brutal ambush, all for Xylia. "They knew you were Xyler. They set this up specifically for you." Xylia nodded slowly, the crimson light gradually receding as she regained control, replaced by a weary, shaken turquoise. "The collectors, they deal in rare biologicals. A first resonance Xyler, exile or not, is a prize." She pushed herself fully upright, leaning against the bulkhead. "We need to leave. Now." "There may be others." "Right." Kale scanned the bridge quickly. "Any chance we can salvage anything useful? A working nav computer, power converter?" "Unlikely." Xylia gestured at the ruined consoles. "The collector destroyed the primary systems, and Lissa likely sabotaged backups." She pushed off the wall, testing her footing. "This vessel is a death trap. We take nothing. We leave." They helped each other back through the dark, debris-strewn corridors, past the first body, the cloying smell seeming to follow them. Reaching the cargo bay felt like surfacing for air. They didn't look back as they exited the crippled freighter, firing their thrusters hard, putting distance between themselves and the ambush site as quickly as possible. Back in the relative safety of Xylia's ship, cycling through the airlock felt like crossing a finish line. They practically tore their helmets off, needing to see each other to confirm visually that they were both okay. Xylia's face was etched with pain and exhaustion, her light still dimmer than usual but steadying. Kale reached out, gently touching her injured shoulder where the disruptor had hit. Still hurt, she leaned into his touch, a soft chime escaping her. The echo fades, your proximity helps stabilize the resonance. Her golden eyes searched his face. You were formidable, Kale. The way you attacked the collector. He hurt you, Kale said simply, his hand moving to cup her cheek. The scales were cool, but the energy beneath was warming again, responding to his touch. Nobody hurts you. Her eyes widened slightly, the silver light swirling with a sudden, intense gold. She lifted her uninjured hand, placing it over his heart, mirroring his gesture. The bond, she whispered, her voice filled with a dawning wonder. It is not just vulnerability, it is strength, shared intent. Protective instinct amplified. He felt it too. The fear had been real, but the drive to protect her had been overwhelming, overriding his own pain, his own safety. It was terrifying and powerful all at once. So, he said softly, his thumb stroking her cheekbone. What do we do now, still stranded, still hunted, probably? Xylia closed her eyes for a moment, seeming to draw strength from the contact, from the resonance flowing between them. When she opened them again, the weariness was still there, but it was overlaid with a fierce determination Kale hadn't seen before. The light on her skin solidified into a brilliant, unwavering gold, laced with resolute silver. My kin believe me lost in the grave. The collectors know I survived their trap, but they do not know where we fled. She met his gaze, her golden eyes burning with intensity. We are hidden for now. Adrift, yes, but alive and connected. She leaned closer, her forehead resting against his. He could feel the gentle thrum of her energy intertwining with his own. We survived their traps, Kale. We survived the resonance feedback. We are stronger than they know, stronger perhaps than I knew. Her voice dropped, becoming a fierce, possessive murmur against his skin. They sought to reclaim me, to control my potential, to extinguish the first resonance. They see you as collateral damage, an insignificant Terran. A low growl like stressed metal vibrated in her chest. Crimson flickered at the edges of the gold. They are wrong. You are not insignificant. You are mine. Mine by salvage, mine by resonance, mine by choice. She pulled back just enough to look him in the eyes, her grip tightening over his heart. I swore an oath upon my exile, Kale, to survive, to protect the true resonance. Now that oath includes you. Her voice became chillingly clear, resonant with absolute conviction. I will get us out of here. I will find a sanctuary. And if my kin, my siblings, ever threaten you again, the crimson flared, momentarily overwhelming the gold, I will not hesitate. I will tear down their corrupted harmony. I will shatter their stasis. I will unmake them all. She leaned in, sealing her vow with a kiss. It wasn't the tentative exploration of their first encounter, nor the desperate clinging in the face of danger. This was a brand, a claim. A promise delivered with the full, terrifying force of her alien soul, pouring across the bond, igniting him with its ferocious certainty. He met her kiss, not with hesitation but with surrender, accepting the vow, accepting the bond, accepting this impossible, dangerous, extraordinary connection. Stranded they might be, but for the first time since crashing into this mess, Kale didn't feel entirely lost. He felt found.